Welcome, David Arias, to this Q&A for Collabwith. We are always talking about the EIC, so the European Innovation Council and Accelerator, all the funding they have. And we did several videos and interviews about how they are having this new approach and new phases. And now, after almost 1 year, it's open again. So we have some data. And even they publish some reports. So what is the current situation now? How you can describe what is happening in the EIC now?
Thank you, Hara. So I think it's there are some pros and cons about the situation with the European Innovation Council. We have been working with several applications during the last year, and the application process has changed. In some cases, it's easier to go through it. For instance, the step 1, I think, is a good idea because it's pretty simple to apply, and it helps companies set up the strategy and the general objectives of the project. But the step 2 is really a lot of work, and companies are struggling to go through it. And I think in general, it's good news that they are giving a lot of money. The last call in 2021, they approved 99 projects with more than 600 million euro, I remember. But the bad news is that a big part of this funding has never reached the companies, the startups yet.
Oh, so even if they approve, so even they were accepted?
Exactly. So there are many startups that were accepted even in the June call of last year in 2021, and they haven't received the funding yet because they applied for blended finance, which means that they applied for grants plus equity investments, and the EIC is struggling to close these agreements and to organize itself in the necessary structure to approve and to give the money, for the equity investments.
Mm-hmm. Super interesting. And now you told me as well there is a drop of applications, which is very good because then you have more chances to get the funding. What are the numbers there?
So it's difficult to say because I think the transparency is a little bit lower now than what it was with Horizon 2020. But there are some numbers that the EIC have been publishing, and for instance, in some calls we have seen about 1,000 applications or even 900 applications, the step 2 applications, which is a much lower amount than what it was in Horizon 2020. The final numbers were about 4,000 applications, so it's four times less. And we think this is mainly due to these different steps that companies now need to go through, and also because there is a step 2. The step 2 proposal is much longer. And the process it takes a lot of time. So there are many companies that are just abandoning the application process at the step 2.
So the step 2, what is long? What does it mean, long and process?
So we have seen proposals that if you print them, they are 150 or even 200 pages long. Compared to the 30 pages that they were before, so much longer. But on the other hand, it's true that the application, the questions that you have to answer, probably they are easier to answer, more focused, more very well defined. So it's from that point of view, it's easier to write, but you have to write and you have to be better prepared now, I think.
Yeah, and as well, maybe it's this new system they are using in the other proposals. You have a website, you answer the questions inside the platform, and then even for the numbers, you have to go one by one in the boxes, which is very easy for evaluate as well and to write like a normal report, but it takes longer. It takes a longer time.
Exactly. So it's a very custom process, that you cannot just copy paste, no, from other reports, and which probably is bad, no. So companies, I usually explain this to our clients that many of them, they have a business plan, but they cannot use it because you cannot copy paste the business plan into these forms, because the questions that you have to answer, they are so specific that the answers would not really make sense, no, for this question. So that requires a lot of work, and that means that there are fewer applications. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you have in the EIC 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. So what is the phase 1? What you have to do for the phase 1?
So the phase 1 or step 1 is you have to do a video, a 3-minute video, which is something simple to do, I would say. Then a pitch deck and an online proposal that is usually is a 10 to 15 pages long. And I think in this proposal you must just describe the innovation, describe what the problem is, what the market is. And you also need to describe the company and the team and the general strategy, for the application. That is step 1, and the success rate in average in Europe is around 70%. So it means that it's fairly simple to be successful at the step 1.
Yeah. So and then it's coming the phase 2 with these 200 pages in the platform. So you have to answer all as a formula. Yeah. And then you have an interview.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's step 3. Yeah, the interviews. And yeah, and in the last year and a half, we have helped several companies going through the interview, and we must say that our conclusions is that it's quite unpredictable, to be honest. Like we have some clients that just got questions, for instance, about the IP, the intellectual property. Other clients got lots of questions about the finances and the investors, the current shareholders, the exit strategy as well. But I think from my point of view, there's been a change towards a more sort of financial interview. So much more focused on financials, on return on investments, on shareholders, this type of issues. So it seems clear that the EIC is focusing more and more on, I think, on return on investment and having a sort of investor point of view, I think.
Yeah, but then if a solution is coming from the university, but they were this solution more or less public funded, but there is not investors. So how they can answer these questions if they never had investors? So how they are dealing with this, the strategy of the EIC to bring to the market the research of the university, the deep tech is already there. But now they need the money to go to market, not like to scale. I think there is a difference there. So, and as well, it's a very, very personal choice if you want to get investors into your table and if you don't want to have investors in your table. So how do you see they manage this kind of cases?
So it's a very good question. We have had actually some very bad experiences from some companies, especially one company was rejected and the feedback was almost saying, you don't have investors, why not? And basically the founders explained the reasons, but they didn't like it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we also have the feeling that the EIC has in the step 3 in the interviews, they have selected mostly private investors for these interviews. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the point of view is very similar, or the interview is very, very too similar, to the one that companies would have with private investors. And maybe in some cases the focus of the EIC should be different, because it's in the end it's a public program, and they are supposed to finance also companies that maybe are not super interesting for private investors, but that could give impact in the longer term. Yeah. But yeah, but we are seeing that, yeah, the EICs, maybe because they want to play this role of investor, and maybe it's now too similar to a private investor, maybe in some interviews, especially.
Yeah, and as well because it was not the goal. So they always is the part of you. We have a European Research Council and we have the Innovation Council, and it's go to market. And going to market from research perspective or startups, but to cover the size of this market, like you can, if a startup wants to pitch to a private investor, they have. So the EIC was to cover this market of startups who are not going to pitch to a normal private venture capital or investor. So now they are competing to venture capital, which is super strange.
So it's the problem is that what the EIC wants to do is quite complex, no, to be honest. So they want to complement private capital, but not replace private capital. But at the same time, they want to have return on investment. So it's a very difficult, situation in which sometimes they need to prioritize return investment. Sometimes they need to prioritize also the European policies. But in the end, they are the jury members. They are the ones who decide, and sometimes these people are just private investors, and they don't know exactly all the European policies or all the European priorities. So it's a very complex evaluation mechanism that, of course, I think the mechanism is well designed, because there are these 3 steps, no, and everything is well established and well designed. But in the end, there are persons who are the ones who are deciding, and they have a lot of power, no, a lot of power. So in the last step, there is these people in the jury that are all of them private investors. Maybe in some cases, the decisions are not fully aligned with what you would expect.
Yeah, and as well the part of impact, no, they publish the EIC the impact report. And if the decision making is based only on private investment, we can say factors, or only perspective of a private investor, only for return of financial return of the investment, the problem is like you don't see the impact on the planet or the society. So now there is a lot of strategies in Europe about social innovation, rural innovation. Like maybe they are not so full focus on return of investment, and as well the sustainability, the green transition, the digital transition, and all these transformations. Sometimes you have return of investment, like it's not only financial equity or financial returns, but as well you have more social returns and you have more sustainability returns. And this is now, sadly, apparently, is not taken into account. So how in decision making on the EIC interview? So how is this relationship between the EIC impact report they published recently and at the end the results of the decision making of who are selected to get the funding?
No, very, very good question, because according to my experience, what we have seen, for instance, at the interviews, the companies that go to the interviews, they are never getting questions about the impact on society or impact on the environment. Never. They are getting questions about the return on investment, the shareholders, the exit strategies. So questions very similar to the ones that a VC, a venture capital, would make. But also, if you look at the impact report, it's also the same thing. If you look at the impact report, the EIC impact report, they are talking about unicorns, about return investment. Again, every euro invested in EIC companies is generating 3 euros. And they are not talking so much about societal impact or environmental impact. So we think this is a deliberate decision, no, to focus EIC a lot on economic returns, and this is how it is. And I think it's important for the companies applying to it that they know that this is this is how it works.
Yeah, and we are very lucky, like because you have your customers going through the interviews, David. So how they can, startups they want to apply, coming from research, from universities, or from any kind of company, how they can contact you and to go through this process together with you of the application to the EIC.
So yeah, the easiest way is to send us an email. They can send an email to hello@strata.team, or my email, david.arias@strata.team.
Okay, very good. David, do you want to add some other comments on how to encourage startups to apply to the EIC?
No, yeah, of course. I just want to maybe say a few words. I think the EIC is a great program. It's the biggest funding program, in Europe, with more than 1 billion euro per year. But it's a very tough process, and it requires a lot of time. So yeah, if you want to go for it, you have to be prepared.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you.